Round about Halloween, the Cinemassacre truth puts a bunch of dumb shit on your screen. Hope you've got the time.
Because I have to be done at 5:40 right now. Hey everyone, today I want to share an old review that I did for the movie Splinter. Yeah, I actually recorded the voiceover for this back in 2011. However, I never properly finished the video because I got caught up in the pre-production for the AVGN movie, one of the greatest independent films ever made. It's only now that I've gotten around to adding the final touches. In retrospect, it's kind of a blessing because I barely ever have time for movie reviews anymore, especially when considering there's almost nobody left at Cinemassacre to write scripts for me. Well, I hope you will all enjoy this forgotten entry in my extensive filmography. Happy Halloween!
For this video, I'm going to be looking at a 2008 film called Splinter. When I first heard of this, it made me think of a Ninja Turtles movie about Splinter the Rat. Yeah, that would be awesome, right? With all of the frivolous, cash-grabbing spin-offs being pumped out nowadays, I don't see why not. Anyway, Splinter is actually a disgusting horror flick about a group of people trapped inside a gas station while parasite-infested corpses attempt to break in. The film begins with a couple named Seth and Polly arriving at an Oklahoma campsite for their anniversary. Unfortunately, they get kidnapped by a criminal named Dennis, who's on the run from authorities and is trying to reach the Mexican border with his drug addict girlfriend, Lacey. The first act has a fairly interesting dynamic with these four, due to the way they contrast with each other. Seth and Polly fit into the typical, wholesome image of romantic partners, whereas Dennis and Lacey have a loving, yet clearly dysfunctional relationship. Seeing these two couples interact is an effective way to establish their personalities, while also creating an awkward tension between them that keeps you invested before the real terror starts. While driving, a road accident damages their car, and the group is forced to stop at a remote gas station. You can already tell that this place is bad news just from looking at it. The sterile fluorescent lights are oppressively grim, and the immense darkness of the surrounding forest emphasizes its isolation. Suddenly, they encounter the extremely disfigured pump attendant who starts chasing after them. Lacey is killed in the chaos, and everyone else barricades themselves inside the store. As if things weren't bad enough, they soon find out that some bizarre parasitic fungus from the attendant is now controlling Lacey's body. From this point, it becomes a desperate bid for survival, and these three have to work together to keep the creature out while finding a way to escape. The parasite creature itself is simple in design, a black slime with splinters growing outward to infect more prey. When combined with a host, it truly becomes a nauseating sight to behold. The splinters spring up all over their victims' bodies, and the limbs are constantly broken as they move, leaving their hosts a mangled, mutilated mess. It even has the ability to merge with and break off body parts, much like the alien from John Carpenter's The Thing. This puts the survivors in a rock-and-hard place dilemma where they either have to deal with a small, agile fragment or a giant, repulsive mass that can tear them to shreds. Early on, Dennis gets his finger punctured by a splinter. Talk about the prick getting pricked. This causes an infection that steadily travels up his arm to the point it starts convulsing on its own, sorta like Ash's right hand in Evil Dead 2. Unlike that example, which played the killer hand trope mostly for laughs, Splinter goes all in for shocks by having the arm contort the everlasting fuck out of itself. Oh God, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to have your limbs all twisted up like that. Okay, actually yes, I could. What follows is probably one of the most gut-wrenching amputations I've ever seen in a movie. It's performed in such a shoddy and borderline primitive way that honestly, I can't do justice by talking about it. It's just something you have to see for yourself. The practical effects sell the unapologetic brutality of this scene, and Dennis's screams of agony will be sure to echo in your ears when it's over. The characters fall into the familiar roles you'd expect from this kind of film. Seth is a nervous biologist trying to figure out the situation, Polly is strong-willed and determined to escape, and Dennis is, well, a temperamental asshole.
Stupid fucking idiot!
A lot of monster films get stuck in the trap of treating the characters as accessories for the creature to torment and maim. Refreshingly, they're all well acted and have enough depth that keeps them from being one-dimensional. To me, that makes the horror far more effective because you actually care about what happens to these people, and you want them to make it out alive to the end. This is a spoiler alert for the ending, so I would stop here if you still want to watch Splinter for yourself. Seth concludes that the parasite tracks prey using heat. He then comes up with a plan to lower his body temperature with bags of ice in order to slip past the creature and reach a working vehicle. Meanwhile, Polly and Dennis will focus on distracting it by throwing fireworks out the back door. It's quite nerve-wracking to watch Seth slowly approach the car while fighting against his shivering body as it's heating up. Although, it does seem a little silly. Couldn't they just use the fireworks without nearly putting Seth into hypothermia? I suppose you could argue that the creature would prioritize a bigger heat signature over the puny fireworks. However, once Seth finally does manage to get into the car, he realizes the keys aren't there, right when his body temperature warms up enough to attract the creature's attention. Oops. Just as the creature is about to seriously stab the garbage out of Seth, Dennis goes out in the open to draw it away. This leads to it breaking into the store and trashing the place worse than what the roomgoers did at my old college dorm, which, by the way, I did not participate in.
Yeah!
Seth comes back with a shotgun from the car and hands it to Dennis, who then decides to hold off the creature by himself. It's such a badass moment because not only is Dennis literally fighting this thing one-handed, but it also marks the completion of his growth from the film's initial villain into its central hero, willing to risk his life for the people who he held hostage just hours earlier. Sadly, while Dennis succeeds in killing the creature by setting it ablaze, he gets reinfected in the process. The trio share one last moment together before Dennis sacrifices himself by blowing up the gas station. Splinter isn't a groundbreaking film by any means. It features some of the old conventions you would find in other movies such as zombie-like monsters, an isolated gas station setting, a stupid cop who doesn't listen, killer hands, and of course, climactic explosions. However, I'd argue that's part of its appeal. It's a nice throwback to the classic horror movies of the 70s and 80s by taking their various elements and blending them together in a way that feels seamless and new. With well-rounded characters, tons of good old blood and gore, and an interesting monster, Splinter manages to stick out amongst the vast forest that is the horror genre.
Thanks for watching the video. If you're looking forward to more Lost reviews of mine, well, you're out of luck. The only other one I had was for 28 Days Later, which one of our writers contaminated with huge loads of plagiarism, resulting in destructive results. You know, the Splinter creature actually does sound pretty terrifying the more I think about it. The director, Toby Wilkins, said that he believes the scariest outcome is not having it kill you and take over your body, but becoming one of its puppets while alive. Imagine what it would be like to be infected like Dennis or that pump attendant, being controlled by a horde of inhuman parasites that dictate your every action against your will, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Hey James, Big Ryan just got us 10 sponsorship deals. We need you to make 7 Neighbor Nerds with John and 3 AVGN videos so you can shill their crappy products. Oh, and you have to finish one of the ad reads in the next half hour.
But, Justin, how could I finish that in time? It's 5:11 p.m.
Ooh, sounds like a you problem.
Fuck!
That's it, we just ran out of time.